Good morning, Foundations. Happy New Year. How's everyone doing? Man, it's good to see you all. Everyone on Facebook, online, and my friends at Windsor, welcome, welcome, welcome. If we've not met, my name is Steve Carter, and I'm so excited to be here. I just got to say, you made it. I mean, you got through the hardest year any of us have probably ever lived. Like, job well done. There wasn't anybody you could literally call who, made it through the Spanish influenza that you could say, hey, how did you do this? Literally, if you were like me, you were just flying blind. You're like, man, I don't know how to do remote learning. I got teachers who I just think are absolute heroes. Real quick, this was not in any of the other teachings. One of my friends is a kindergarten teacher in Illinois, and she's doing teaching. They're not paid enough. We're just going to say that right now. They're not paid enough. She's teaching, and all of a sudden, little boy's being a little boy. He's so squirmy like me up on stage, and so she's like, hey, bud, just sit down. He's like, okay. And then he starts squirming again. So she's like, hey, bud, gotta stay put. So you know what the kid does? Kid takes the computer, walks her to the corner, puts her in timeout, and then walks away and does his own thing. And she's like, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm in timeout, which is just unbelievable. Parents, teachers, you did it. You did it. I mean, seriously, global pandemic, civil unrest, politics, craziness, everything. And now we're here, and don't you just feel like nothing's changed? But one number, 2020 to 2021. So I'm so fired up. We're in the brand new series called You Got This. And again, this is just this beautiful concept. I remember when Pastor Marcus was talking about this idea. And I think just many of us, we just need encouragement to be reminded straight from God's word that we can do this. We can lead. We can be great parents. We can be great disciples. We can be great people, great just parents, great in our neighborhoods. You got this. And so I love whenever I hear an idea, my first inclination is to find a character in the scriptures who's really wrestling with this. Who is wrestling with this idea of you got this. And for me, the person that came to mind quickly was Timothy. You know Timothy, he was half Gentile, half Jew. So he wasn't able to come to church. He wasn't able to come to synagogue. But his grandparent, his mom, taught him the scriptures. And finally, some rabbi by the name of Paul came around and said, I believe in you. I think you got this. I'm actually have you be my Talmudim, my disciple. And they began to travel and he began to teach him. And now Timothy, who has all of this years and years and years of not feeling worthy enough, not feeling good enough, not feeling like he has what it takes, is now been tasked to lead the church in Ephesus, which was one of the hippest, most cool, most amazing cities in the ancient Near East. And here's Timothy wondering, do I have what it takes? And Paul hears about this in prison. He hears about his spiritual son, his spiritual mentee, Timothy, is struggling to believe that he got this, that he can do this. And so Paul does what Paul does. He prays, grabs some pen, grabs a scroll, and begins to write. And this is what he writes. In 2 Timothy 1, he goes, for this reason, I, Paul, remind you, Timothy, to fan into flame the gift of God. Now, real quick, whose responsibility is it to fan into flame? Real quick, who is it? Timothy, thank you. You're sitting next to a Nebraska fan. Thank you. All are welcome here. Now, here's the truth. It says this, for this reason, I remind you to fan into flame the gift of God, which is in you through the laying on of my hands. I think this is amazing. Because oftentimes we miss this. We kind of read this, we're like, fan into flame. That sounds awesome. That sounds great. But what's Paul saying? Paul's trying to take Timothy back to a moment, to a rite of passage, to a moment that literally, it's as if Paul is calling out the best in him. And so what I want to do is I want to do something. The first Saturday night service, I had Pastor Carl come up, and I tried to just reenact this. Last service, I had Pastor Marcus come up. I tried to reenact this. So I thought I'd literally go totally off script. She doesn't know that I'm going to do this, but I'm going to actually introduce you to a freshman from Azusa Pacific University who has not been able to go to Azusa Pacific University because she's stuck here doing remote learning. So Micah Cunningham, would you mind coming up here for a second? She's going to hate me for this, but you can clap for her. All right. So some of you are like, what is going on? I just want to take you back because I think this is important. Micah, you can sit right here. Thank you so much. Now, what I want you to see, though, is oftentimes we miss out on who we are, right? We miss out on kind of those gifts that God has given to us. Like, what's your name? Lee. I watched you from the front row, and I watched you worship. And I'm like, dude, that guy's a worshiper. That guy can worship. If you ever don't want to worship, just watch Lee at the 11 a.m. And this guy, like you, dude, it inspired me. That's something that's true of you. If Paul was here, he would lay hands and go, Lee, you're a worshiper. That's who you are. If we got our guy up here, Brett, who's just like incredible. This guy is, a servant. Just steps in, serves all the time, constantly texting me, serving. How do we serve the church? I look at that and I just go, man, like somebody must have called that out of him. And he can worship and he can lead. He's got a great voice. But man, I see this servant in him. Now, Micah has no idea what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to stand behind just so I'm like COVID friendly. Now, here's the deal. I got forwarded a video of a high school graduation where I watched her give a speech. Someone sent it to me and they're like, you got to hear this. 18 years old. I wouldn't have done this at 18 years old. And this, you're 19 now? Okay, 19 years old. At 18, as a high school senior, delivered this speech that was like one of the most compelling talks I had heard all in 2020. And I've heard a lot of teaching. I've heard a lot of talks. And I was like, here's someone that I think if Paul was here and put a hand, go, dude, you have thoughts. You have gifting. You see. But underneath all of that, I wish I had your faith at your age. I wish I had your faith and your ability to see what God sees. And not just to have that faith, but also to be able to put that faith in words and in action and in demonstration. Please, don't ever lose that. Like now your responsibility as Lee's is to keep worshiping and lead this choir called Foundations from the blue seats or the purple seats or the green seats or whatever the Rockies. All the Denver seats this is the whole Denver team seats. We try to hit everyone from the Avalanche, except Colorado State. They don't have chairs, I guess. But here's the deal. Here's the thing. Please don't lose that. Keep being that kind of person. This is what Paul would say. This is what Paul would have done to Timothy. And he's trying to take Timothy back because if you're like me, you can forget. And then 2020 hits and you can get uncertain. And you can lose your way and you can lose your focus and you start questioning, do I got this? Does God got this? Can I do this? And if you've ever been there, I want you to know, first and foremost, you're human. Secondly, you're in good company because Timothy. But thirdly, you got this. Micah, thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Micah. But look what happens. Look what Paul says. He doesn't just say laying on of my hands, but look what he says. For the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid. Do you know that Timothy's nickname was starting to be Timid Timothy? Like, God has given you a lot. But God didn't go, hey, you know what I really want for my creation? I really want them to be filled with worry, stress, and timidity. No. For the Spirit that God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. A couple weeks ago, I talked about power, El Gabor. We have this like power. But it's not just we have power, resurrection power to become something new. We also have love, the ability to love like Christ's love. We have power and love. It almost feels like grace and truth, like they don't go together. But we got power and love. And then lastly, you think it's going to be like hope or faith or something so inspiring. And Paul's like, and self-discipline. Let's just be honest. I think the church has a lot of power. We can feel it in worship. There's a lot of love, and we can feel it in our compassion ministries. But self-discipline? I think it's a lost art. I think it's missing in the local church. I want to try and reclaim it. This is 2021, the first weekend message. And how many of you have created your own New Year's resolution? Show of hands. All right, 12 of you. You're like, last year I had all the hopes to go to the gym more, and then it closed down, to eat healthier, but then I was home, to watch less TV, but I was home. Like, so maybe some of you are like, I'm not going to do it. But I actually think that there's something beautiful about seeing the potential of a new year, a new you, and stepping more into that. So what's self-discipline in Greek? Self-discipline in Greek is this word, sophoronimos, and it literally, if you translate it, it really is a saved mind. A saved mind. You'll see in the New Testament, oftentimes we'll talk about a sound mind. That's this self-discipline. But really, a saved mind, self-discipline, is that you actually understand who you are. You understand the system for how you're supposed to live. And you are able to differentiate and delineate and decipher through this life that the world is pushing on me is going to take me away from who God's called me to be. And some scholars have called this the system of saintliness, which I love it. Self-discipline is kind of this self-system of saintliness. Now, sometimes people think self-discipline is synonymous with the word self-control because we know of it to be one of the fruit of the Spirit. Paul writes in the book of Galatians, and he says these beautiful words, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance or patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. Here's the question I want to ask today is what's the difference between self-discipline and self-control? What's the difference? I think they're cousins. I don't think they're siblings. And here's what I believe. And a lot of what I'm going to teach you comes from a book written by a man by the name of James Clear. I love to read. I pound through books. I believe that you are what you eat, you are what you read. But has anyone read the book Atomic Habits? Lee, second time, buddy. I love you. What's your favorite football team? Michigan? I love you, man. You're amazing. Gosh. Now, here's the thing. So this book, a couple of us have read it. I'll just tell you, I just for integrity's sake, I just want you to know, I love to read, but a lot of the ideas that I'm telling you today come from that book. So if you like to read, he takes it so much farther. I highly recommend the book. But self-discipline equals good habits. Self-control equals good choices. So the system of saintliness, the good habits, but self-control are the decisions and the choices that are going to let you live into your saintliness or away from it. Now, we all know what a definition of a habit is. A habit is a routine or behavior that is performed regularly. This is something that you do on a regular basis. Now, there's scientific research that has been done. And Clear will talk about this in Atomic Habits, but this has been done from Stanford to amazing schools and institutions. But there is this kind of habit feedback loop, and it's based on 4 words: cue plus craving plus response plus reward. Now, for instance, you go home, you pull in the garage, you park your car, you walk in through the garage door, and it's no lights are on in the house. So you're cued. It's dark. You have a craving. I need light. So what do? If you got the clapper, you clap. Or you find a light switch and you flip it on. And now you're rewarded with light in the room. You didn't think about it. You just have done this since you were little. It's within you. It's become this habit. It's a good habit. But also, for some of us, we have bad habits. We're driving. Someone cues us and triggers us by literally cutting us off. And we have a craving to run them off the road. Our response in that moment is we yell at them. And we are rewarded with 3 seconds of feeling better and 20 minutes of feeling worse because we realize the person we just yelled at was Pastor Carl. It's tough. I actually had that happen one time. I did. A lady yelled at me, and then she flipped me off. And then the next weekend I got done teaching, and she said, "I'm so sorry. I just got angry." And it wasn't like I cut her off. I just made her right, and I had to make a hard left into my driveway because it's right there, and she wasn't paying attention. But anyways, that can happen. That can happen. Now, let me just talk about this for a second. The habits are these like routines we do on a regular basis. I love this understanding. Dave Balesford says this, that it's the aggregation of marginal gains. That's what habits are. That's what good habits are. The aggregation of marginal gains. And you know what that is? It's boring. That is the most boring thing ever, because don't we want to go to the gym and after 3 days look like Arnold Schwarzenegger? Like we go and it's like, no, that's not how it works. It's like slowly but surely building on yesterday's hard work and then showing up the next day and building up on yesterday's work. And literally they call this the 1% theory. 1% theory. And Clear writes about this and he talks about it, and it's genius in my opinion. I'll map this out for you just because if you don't believe me. 365 days in the year. And if you were to get better each day by 1%, over the course of one calendar year, you would be plus 37%. 365 days, getting better. Whew. Can you just imagine at the end of 2021, you got 37% better at prayer? 37% better in faith? 37% better in your depth with Jesus? 37% better? I mean, wouldn't you all be much more happy if I got 37% better at preaching? Like, you would just be like, thank God. Do the work, Steve, right? There's this moment where we actually improve by 37%. But here's the crazy piece. Clear says, if you don't do anything, that literally over the course of a year, you will actually decrease and you will regress. 2018, Pastor Marcus and I, we worked together in Illinois. He can attest to this. I was the healthiest I've ever been since I played college basketball. And I really didn't play college basketball. I sat the bench, but I got free shoes. Now, here's the deal. I was at 172. I was running. I was going to the gym in the morning. I was going to the gym on my way home. I was eating healthy. Man, I was fit. I was toned. And then 2019, I moved to the desert, got away from my gym, got away from my coach, got away from my accountability group. Then 2020 hit, and all of a sudden the gym shut down. I don't know if you've ever been to Arizona, but like it's the greatest evangelism strategy ever because it's so hot and you're like, don't go to hell. It's like Arizona. And like, you just don't want to go there. And so like all of a sudden I'm not working out. And here's the crazy piece. If you were to add, say 37 pounds, and I were to add 3, I literally went up 40 pounds. That's awesome. I said that at the Saturday night service, and the guy in the back was like, dude. And I'm like, thanks for the encouragement, bro. But here's the thing. You regress. You actually regress in faith. You regress with evangelism. You regress in your discipleship. You can be really, really intent on saving, and then you're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to use this month, and I'm going to go fully on credit, and you regress. So you can either choose to get better, the aggregation of marginal gains, or you can regress. And this is what often happens because we don't have self-discipline and we don't have self-control. And what often happens, though, I feel, is that there is this tension between expectations, reality, and disappointment. And what I mean by this is we have an expectation going into 2021 that, man, we're going to go to the gym and we're literally just going to grow. And then reality is, you know what? It's actually really hard. And we start to like slowly start to grow. And this is like our expectations, this is literally reality if we're actually aggregation of marginal gains. But literally, it takes time. And we get disappointed that we can't see the results right away. And so many of us just quit. And so instead of just actually leaning into the good habits, we make excuses. And friends, I'm going to build on one sentence for our message today. And it starts with this. Success and self-discipline is the result of daily habits. Now, when everybody talks about self-discipline, most people think I'm talking about goals, talking about outcomes, talking about what you're trying to achieve. And in some ways I am, but it's very, very small. See, whenever you're thinking about goals, you're literally, and thinking about habits, you've got to wrestle between which comes first. It's either outcomes plus processes plus identity. Outcomes, what you hope to achieve. Processes, how you hope to do it. Identity, who you're going to become. Or you have to flip it and you go identity, who you want to become. Processes, how you're going to do it. Outcomes, what you hope to achieve. See, oftentimes I'll hear people talk and they'll be like, what do you want to do in 2021? Someone will say, I want to run a marathon. Awesome. How are you going to do it? I'll probably start to run. Okay. But there's a thing is when you say that, I want to run a marathon, you're putting the outcome or the achievement or the goal as like paramount. What if you were to flip it? What's your goal in 2021? I'm going to be a runner. You're identifying as a runner. And how are you going to do it? I'm going to run. And I hope to accomplish a marathon. So 2 days ago, I ran a half mile. Come on now. Yeah, I got the Brooks Ghost 13s. I'm ready to go, Lee. I'm ready to go, Lee. And then yesterday, I go to the Marriott Hotel. I run a mile. Little marginal gains. But identifying, not like, oh man, I'm just got to hit this goal. No. Because runners run. Runners run. When you think about this, is self-discipline. Self-discipline equals good habits. And what's so beautiful, and your habits are how you embody your identity. I mean, this is what often people forget. I can tell you what's most important to you if you have the transparency and honesty to show me your calendar. If you went through 168 hours in your week, 24 times 7, 168, you showcased what was you did with that time, I tell you what's important to you. Instagram, Facebook, some of you in the Word, some of you discipling, some of you prayer. I could show you by how we spend our time. And what's amazing is how we spend our time, we embody how and what we are choosing to become, what our identity is. Now, what's amazing is oftentimes this word identity gets a little bit lost. If I took you back to the original language, identity is made up of 2 words. I don't know how to say the first one, so I call it Encinitas because it's near San Diego and it's a great beach town, plus identitum. And here's what it means. It's repeated beingness. Isn't that beautiful? It's repeated beingness. So when you read the Bible and you pray, it's like repeated beingness as a disciple of Jesus. When you find yourself actually being someone who's generous with your money, it's repeated beingness. When you find yourself getting angry and just lashing out, repeated beingness. When you find yourself actually stopping and choosing to pray on a regular basis, repeated beingness. And this is important because our habits often dictate who we want to become. And this is where we miss it. The kind of person we're trying to become as a disciple of Jesus. So let's take it even farther. Back to that sentence. Self-discipline equals good habits. And your habits are how you embody your identity by. 2 principles. First principle, decide the type of person you want to be. I can't do this for you. Carl can't do this for you. Marcus can't do this for you. You have to decide, what kind of person do I want to be? Do I want to be a faithful person? This is what Paul's getting after Timothy. Timothy, your choice. Do you want to be timid your whole life? Or do you actually want to actually trust that when I laid hands on you and I called out, I wasn't saying that for me, I was saying that for you so that you would recognize that God's given you these gifts and that you have power, you have self-love, you have love, and you have self-discipline. Now it's up to you. But you got to decide it. And secondly, you have to prove it to yourself with small wins each day. You can say you're a writer, But if you're not writing, you're just talking. You can say you're a runner. If you're not running, you're going to look like me. You can say that you love the Word of God, but if you haven't picked up the Bible, you know what I'm saying? Like, you've got to actually decide, I want to be someone who lives under the authority of Scripture, and I'm going to prove it each day with small wins because I actually need this book for my life, or I need prayer for my life, or I need faith for my life, or I need to talk about my faith, and I'm going to prove it. I'm going to put it into action. And this is what Paul is telling Timothy. But we live in a goals-oriented culture, whether in the marketplace, whether in our homes, whether in our schools, whether on teams. Like, we are fixed by goals. But instead of getting fixated on, I want to run a marathon, flip it and simply ask, who is the type of person that could run a marathon? A runner. Who's the type of person who could write a book? An author. Who is the type of person that could start a new company? An entrepreneur. And you literally just begin to say, this is what I want to do. Now I'm going to decide that's who I want to be. And now I'm going to prove it with small wins each day, trying to get 1% better, and in a year be 37% better. For me, the question has been in 2021 is, what would a healthy Talmudim do? Talmudim, Hebrew for disciple. High devotion, high desire to be like the rabbi. What would a healthy Talmudim do? Emotionally, spiritually, physically, relationally, financially, vocationally. What would a healthy Talmudim do? And I've literally just started to say, man, this is what I want to be. So now how does it play out? How does it play out? And every day, I will be cued. I will be cued. I will be triggered. And if I don't have good self-discipline and good self-control, I will, at the end of 2021, regress. Regress. And I don't want that. And I don't want that for you. So you have this cue, and now you got to start to play it out. If I want to read my Bible more, okay. Why do I have that desire? Because I want to know God. So what's my response? I got to get a plan together. I'm going to read through the Gospels. What's the reward? Man, I'm going to become a little bit more like Jesus. The Holy Spirit's going to give me more. Maybe for you, it's like mentorship. I want to mentor. I met a woman outside, and she just said, hey, I just felt like 2020, my word for the year was worship. So I just kept talking about worshiping. And then I just felt like God said, no, you got to disciple people. And I just started to disciple people in worship. And again, it's just these deciding and proving it each day with small wins. But how? Because I think this is the big word that most of us struggle with is how. We don't want to be timid, but we don't know how to live with power, love, and self-discipline. We don't know how to actually do it. And what I want to do is I'm going to give you a couple little principles that are really going to help you, not just to decide, but literally actually prove it today, prove it tomorrow with a small win. And the first one is called the implementation intention formula. That's fun to say. The implementation intention formula. And here's what it is. I will, and then your behavior. I will read my Bible at 4:30 a.m. in the chair in the living room. When my dad came to faith, this was his implementation intention formula. He was on the road by 5:30 a.m. every day, and this was it. I will read my Bible at 4:30 a.m. in the chair in the living room. What's yours? See, it's so easy for just to be ethereal. I want to run. I want to be a runner. If you're going to prove it to yourself in small wins, it's got to be put in ink. Too much of our life, too much of our faith is written in pencil. And pencil you can erase. Ink, it's there. And you write it down and you say, man, I want to run at 4:30 p.m. after work each day at Horsetooth. I'm going to do it. And you put it down. That's you actually saying, I want to implement this and I want to live intentionally. Now, let's take it even farther. For some of you, you're like, Steve, I just don't have enough time. And that is valid. That is so valid. But here's what I've come to realize is that there's a little life hack, and it's called habit stacking. Habit stacking is after current habit, I will new habit. Here's what I mean. Every morning, I make coffee because I'm basically useless without coffee. So I get up, I empty out the grounds from yesterday, empty out the old cold coffee, clean it out, add water, pour the water in, grind up the coffee, pour it in, and then I watch it. 3 minutes and 42 seconds for it to make 2 cups of coffee. Yes, I did count. 3 minutes and 42 seconds. I have a good habit because my body needs coffee. 3 minutes and 42 seconds is literally wasted time, wasted space. So habit stacking would say, you've got 3 minutes and 42 seconds. What you going to do with it? Well, I say that I'm a healthy Talmudim and I want to pray more for my kids. Why instead of just standing there watching it or grabbing my phone and playing this awesome game called number stacking, like why would I do that? And why wouldn't I just take 3 minutes and 42 seconds and pray for Mercy, my daughter, pray for Emerson, and then get the coffee, bring it to my wife, and then get my coffee and go to work? Again, this is habit stacking. Many of you already have plenty of good habits. How can you maybe just add one more? Hey, I get up every day at this time. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to read my Bible. There was a woman after the 9 a.m. service. She is awesome. She is awesome. She says, you know what I do? Every day. I was like, what do you do every day? She goes, before I curl my hair, she's got to be 60s, 70s, amazing. She's like, before as I'm like warming it up, I go to my Bible. I put my Bible right on the counter. I turn it to the chapter that I want to read. Then my curlers are warmed up. I think it's what it's called. And literally, I start the curling iron and I start to curl my hair as I read my Bible. And I'm like, I would burn my face. She goes, you know what else I do? Habit stacking? She goes, I do laundry twice a week. I was like, fantastic. Tell me more. She had me just mesmerized. She goes, well, when I'm doing in the washing machine, you know what I do? I just walk the stairs in my condo. 15 floors, I go up, down, or 15 times, I go up and down, up and down, up and down. And then the quick cycle wash is done. I move it to the dryer. Habit stacking, Steve, habit stacking. And then she goes, maybe you should do that. And I'm like, why are you talking about my weight again? Gosh, but habit stacking formula, after current habit, I will. It's not that hard. But again, if you get lost in the kind of idea that like, oh, it's just about outcome, it's just about goals. What do I got to achieve? How am I going to do it? And hopefully you find your identity along the way, you're going to miss it. But start with the kind of person you want to be. I want to be a healthy Talmudim. So how am I going to do it? Let's see what we achieve over the year. But I will get better, the aggregation of marginal gains. So here's what, in like kind of closing, here's what I want you to see. The same principles to start a new habit for 2021 is exactly the same, James Clear will write in Atomic Habits, into breaking a bad habit. And we all got bad habits. Biting our nails, we got bad habits. Looking too much on our screens, we all got bad habits. And then some that are even worse. So how do you actually start? Remember, you're going to be cued. And when you get cued, you got to recognize, when you get cued, whatever this habit is, you got to make it obvious. You got to make it obvious. And when you have it craving, you got to make this new habit attractive. And when you have a response, it's got to be easy. Because again, if it's too hard, we just won't do it. Our life's too crazy as it is. And for the reward, it's got to be satisfying. It's got to be satisfying. If you want to like read your Bible more, make it obvious. Make it the first thing that you see when you wake up in the morning. Make it attractive. I don't know how you would do that, but like literally like maybe open it up and like there's your mug that you use. Make it easy. You already know the plan that you're going to read. Make it satisfying. Talk about ways that you're growing. But if you want to break a habit, if you get cued, you got to do your best to make it invisible. Many of us are better when we sleep. But so many of us, the last thing that we do before we go to bed for 45 minutes to 60 minutes is we're on Twitter or Facebook or the news, which just gets our brains going, and it makes it harder for us to sleep. And when you don't sleep well, you're not great the next day. And if you don't know that, just ask your family. And what's happened is you don't sleep well, and you're kind of not that attractive, right? It's just, and you find yourself being difficult, and you live an unsatisfying life, and you just keep stacking bad habits on that. We add wine, we add Netflix, we just keep going. It doesn't work. So if you're gonna break a bad habit, make it invisible. Hide your phone. Put it at the end of your bedroom. Make it unattractive. I literally gotta get out of bed to go get my phone. Not gonna do it, it's too difficult. It's not satisfying. You know what's more satisfying? Sleep. Oh, it's more satisfying? Actually spending time with God and His Word. You know what's more satisfying? Being 37% better at the end of 2021 than I was at the beginning of 2021. And the more that you can do this, the better that you will become. And I know some of you are saying, Steve, this just feels like work. It is. But so's marriage. So's parenting. So's your job. And I know someone's going to say, Steve, you don't understand though. Faith and works. This sounds like works. Here's what I'll tell you, and I say it almost every time I teach. Dallas Willard says, grace is opposed to earning, but it's never opposed to effort. And the more that we are actually going to have to be the people of Christ, the more that we're going to have to put it into practice. And some days you just don't want to. Some days you don't want to get up and read your Bible. Some days you don't want to get up and pray. Some days you want to just escape. But it takes work to say, I got a better vision for my life. I want to end with this. I'm going to invite the band to come up, and Joanne's going to lead us in a song. But I want you to think about this. 2021. If you could get 1% better tomorrow spiritually, what would you want to get 1% better at tomorrow? Prayer? Reading the Bible? Sharing your faith? Maybe some practice? Some spiritual practice of fasting. I just want to get better at the spiritual practices. They don't just happen. Nobody wakes up and goes, crazy thing, I'm Billy Graham. It doesn't just happen. Billy Graham was someone that put work into it. What's different about him than us? What about for you relationally? I hear people say, I want to be a good parent. How are you going to do it? I want to be a great spouse. I really want to pursue my wife. How are you going to do it? What if at the end of the year, your marriage could be 37% better than it was at the beginning? What about physically? Join my plan. Run a half a mile, run a mile the next day, probably never run again. But no, seriously, what are you going to do? Maybe there's an area that you want to get better at. Do it. Because if your identity is a runner, then you run. Or what about vocationally? Many of you, if you've put in the work, I mean, this guy was leading worship. Now you're up here, I get a brag on you. This guy was leading worship. It's just incredible. I just felt the sense to go into law, which I'm not sure why you would do that. But that takes effort. That takes work. And again, that's like, I think I'm going to step out and do this. Going back to school, working, providing, just doing what he felt God called him to do. And every one of you, whether in the marketplace, decide the kind of leader, the marketplace leader, the teacher, the person you want to be, the lawyer, and prove it by small wins. But you got to have that implementation intention. What's it going to be for you vocationally? What area could you just get 1% better tomorrow at, and 1% better the next day, and 37% better? Or maybe financially. Maybe for some of you, you're like 80% of the population, and you're living paycheck to paycheck. And you don't know how to make money behave. And it creates anxiety, and it creates stress, and you just can't get money to behave. What if at the end of the year, you're 37% better and you had mastered what it means to save? And when you get cued not to run to the mall to buy something, but you could actually go, oh, I know who I am. I don't want to be anxious. I want to be generous. I don't want to be stressed. I want to be faithful. So as Joanne leads us in this song, it's going to be a song about control. And you can stand, you can sing it, you can respond. But here's my honest ask for you. I'm not trying to get you to write a New Year's resolution. I'm just trying to get us to be 37% better at the end of the year as a church. Can you imagine if we, Foundations, were 37% better at prayer, 37% better in our Bibles, 37% better as parents and as in the marketplace, 37% more generous? What would Northern Colorado look like? But it doesn't just happen. And so as Paul told Timothy, God did not give you a spirit of timidity, but of power, resurrection power, love, and self-discipline. You can create the system of saintliness. You got this. Just now depends, will you step into it? And do you actually want to become? And if you trust me in this, and you step out, and you have this aggregation of marginal gains, I can tell you this, it won't be easy, but I will tell you this, you will feel the thrill of God using you. You will feel the increase of faith. You will feel the increase in prayer. You will feel the increase in peace, not worry, not anxiety, but peace. Because you know God's got you, and if God's got you, then you've got this. Amen? Amen. Let's sing.